Hi viewers, I have 3 missing cases for you. It would be great if you could leave a comment on your thoughts of why they went missing. Maybe your view may help solve these cases. After all, someone out there must know something. Is it you?
Maura Murray was born on May 4, 1982 in Brockton, Massachusetts, and was the youngest daughter of Fred Murray, a medical technician, and Laurie Murrays, a nurse. Maura grew up in Hanson, a small suburb on the south shore of Massachusetts in a working-class family with plenty of guidance from her siblings, including her older brother Fred Jr., sisters Kathleen and Julie, and younger brother Curtis. Her parents divorced when she was 6. Maura was an overachiever that excelled both academically, as a National Honor Society member, and athletically. At the same time, she was active in her local community where she became known for her kind heart, signature dimples, and beautiful smile. She participated in nearly every sport, including competitive AAU basketball, which allowed her to travel all over New England as a teenager. A fierce competitor, she consistently finished in the top tier of runners in the state of Massachusetts and broke several long-standing school records. Selected as a Boston Globe All-Scholastic in cross-country, Maura qualified for the U.S. National Scholastic Outdoor Championships in the 2-mile as a sophomore in 1998, finishing 33rd in the country. She graduated at the top of her class at Whitman-Hanson Regional High School and had her pick of colleges, both academically and athletically. However, she decided to accept a congressional nomination from the late Senator Edward Kennedy and join her sister Julie at the prestigious United States Military Academy at West Point. Maura continued to excel in the rigorous military and academic program at West Point and established herself as a force on the cross-country and track teams. During her second year at West Point, Maura decided the military was not for her and she transferred to the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, where she decided to pursue a career in nursing. On the morning of February 9, 2004, Maura submitted her nursing homework electronically and reportedly emailed professors stating there had been a death in the family and she would leave campus for the week. However, there was no death in the family. She placed a call to the owner of a condominium in Bartlett, New Hampshire, which is a place that was special to Maura and that she had spent time at in the past. She packed a bag with toiletries, makeup, workout attire, school books, and several days' worth of clothes. At 3:15 p.m., Maura stopped at an off-campus ATM and withdrew $280, which was nearly all of the money in her account. She then stopped at a liquor store and purchased about $40 worth of alcohol. According to authorities, she departed the Amherst/Hadley, MA area around 4:30 p.m. and drove her 1996 Saturn north toward New Hampshire. She did not tell anyone what her plans were or why she was heading to New Hampshire on that Monday afternoon. At 7:27 p.m., Faith Westman, a resident of Haverhill, New Hampshire, called police and stated that there had been an accident near her home and that a car was stuck in a ditch. Shortly after, a bus driver named Butch Atwood drove by and spoke to Maura. He offered her help and asked if she needed him to call police. She declined both offers and said she had already called AAA. Knowing there was no cell reception in that area, Atwood drove home, about 100 yards east of the accident, parked his bus, and went inside to call police. His call to 911 was placed at 7:42 p.m. When asked if she appeared injured, Atwood told police that she appeared shaken up and that the airbags had deployed, but that he saw no blood. By the time the first officer arrived on scene at 7:46 p.m., Maura was gone. The officer noted that the car had been locked and there was a box of red wine behind the driver's seat, as well as stains on the ceiling and door, and a Coke bottle that appeared to have a red liquid in it. He also noted that there appeared to be a rag stuffed in Maura's tailpipe. Later it was learned that this was something Fred had advised Maura to do in order to avoid being ticketed by police for the excessive smoke coming out of the tailpipe. The officer asked the bus driver for assistance locating Maura and suggested he drive west of the accident scene and search some of the roads in the French Pond area. A state trooper also responded to the scene and also searched the roads west of the accident site. Fire and EMS also responded to the scene. EMS was dismissed within minutes, perhaps because there was no one at the scene to treat. The 8 firefighters briefly searched in the accident scene before proceeding back west and returning to the fire station. As far as anyone is aware, no one searched east of the accident scene. The bus driver's brief interaction with Maura was the last known sighting. Since that time, there has been no trace of her and no activity on her cell phone or bank accounts. Maura's older sister by 2 years, Julie, said that she was very close to Maura. Something bad happened. Something went wrong. Her initial plan was maybe to go up there for whatever reason, no one knows, but then something happened and derailed that plan. If she was able to reach out and contact us and say, "Hey guys, stop worrying. I'm here. I'm fine," she definitely would have, but that didn't happen. Julie said the last conversation she had with Maura appeared normal. In fact, she said Maura seemed excited about spring break plans, a trip to Myrtle Beach, that the sisters had together. That phone conversation took place less than 2 days before Maura vanished. That's why, when all this stuff happened, it completely surprised everyone. Maura's father, Fred, also thinks something bad happened to his daughter. A guy grabbed her walking down the road and killed her. Probably that night, he said he wishes he could see her just one more time. I think she was really upset about something and drove there. I don't know why she went. We need your help, please leave a comment. Yet another person to go missing without a trace. The family believes someone knows something.
Michael Olsen was last seen in West Palm Beach, Florida, on December 1, 1979. He is from Edina, Minnesota, and had been a student at the University of Minnesota, studying business, but he was taking time off school when he disappeared. Several weeks before his disappearance, he traveled to Florida and got a job as a bag boy at the President Country Club in West Palm Beach. He was staying temporarily at the Howard Johnson's Hotel on Okeechobee Boulevard. He called his parents in Minnesota once a week. Friday, November 30th, was Olsen's day off from work. He played golf, then went to a rental agency trying to find a permanent place to live. At 6 p.m., he went to the dog track with co-workers, a mile from his hotel, to watch some races. It is known he placed some bets, but it isn't clear how much he won or lost. Olsen and his friends went to a bar after the track closed and watched a boxing match on television there, then went to 2 other bars, staying until closing time at 4 a.m. on December 1st. His friends stated he didn't drink very much. At 5 a.m., Olsen dropped one of his friends off and said, "I'll see you at work in the morning," then drove away, presumably back to his hotel. He has never been heard from again. When Olsen missed work later, that Saturday, his friends called his hotel and got no answer. They drove to the hotel that night in his car, a maroon 1979 Pontiac Grand Prix. The car wasn't there. Sunday morning, they spoke to the hotel desk clerk, who confirmed he hadn't checked out. The clerk thought Olsen might have decided to leave without settling his bill, and called the police. The next day, Monday, Olsen's boss called his parents and told them Olsen was missing. Olsen was apparently happy with how things were going in Florida, and his parents didn't believe he would have walked out of his life, especially without taking his clothes or other belongings with him. Because he had just cashed his paycheck and a $700 check his parents sent him, he may have been carrying up to a few $1,000s when he disappeared. He wasn't involved with drugs, and his family stated even if he had gotten in trouble, such as by gambling away all his money at the dog track, he wouldn't have been afraid to come home and ask them for help. Olsen's family theorizes he was murdered, either because he accidentally witnessed criminal activity, or because thieves wanted to steal his new car and the cash he had on him. The Grand Prix has never been recovered, and there has been no sign of Olsen since 1979. Both of Olsen's parents have since passed away without ever knowing what happened, but his siblings are still alive. What a tragedy, another young person that disappeared without a trace. Someone must know something. Is it you?
Richard Cox was a 21-year-old West Point cadet who was handsome, highly intelligent, ambitious, well-liked, hard-working, and clean-living. After a fine 2-year Army career where he was stationed in Germany, he achieved his life's great dream when he secured an appointment in the military academy. He was very much in love with his fiancée, a pretty girl from his hometown of Mansfield, Ohio, and appeared to have a great future ahead of him. In short, he seemed to be the last person in the world to have disappeared without a trace. But that was exactly what happened. Cox's golden boy existence began to tarnish on January 7, 1950. The cadet who was in charge of quarters in Cox's company received a phone call from a man asking if Dick Cox was there. The caller left a message, "Just tell him George called, he'll know who I am. We knew each other in Germany." Unfortunately, the cadet who took the call could only be fairly certain the man gave his name as George. When Cox was told of this phone call, he claimed to have no idea who the man could be. However, when George came to see him later that evening, he recognized him at once. The two men seemed happy to see each other, and they left together. It was presumed they were headed for the Hotel Thayer, the one dining establishment open to cadets other than the mess hall. Instead, they sat in George's car, drinking whiskey. When Cox returned to his room an hour and a half later, he was drunk, which was very much out of character for him. He was so inebriated he immediately fell asleep at his desk. When the 10:30 tattoo sounded, his two roommates were startled to see Cox suddenly spring to his feet and run into the hallway, shouting something peculiar. The two roommates thought it sounded like Alice, but it has also been speculated that he was crying Alice kaputt, German for all is ended. We will never know for sure what Cox was saying, or what this unguarded heart cry could have meant. Cox quickly pulled himself together somewhat. He returned to the room and, ignoring his roommates' questions, fell on his bed and went instantly back to sleep. The next morning, he told his roommates something about his experiences the previous night. He claimed that his visitor, whose name he never mentioned, had been part of his outfit in Germany. Cox described him as a morbid guy, who liked to talk about all the killing he had done in the army. Cox added that this guy had also impregnated a German girl, and then murdered her. Despite his expressed disgust with his acquaintance, he had another meeting with the stranger that afternoon. The following week seemed perfectly normal. Cox's grades remained high, and his behavior impeccable. Then, on January 14th, despite the fact that he had expressed hope that he wouldn't have to see that fellow again, Cox was seen talking with George near his barracks. Soon afterward, he told a friend that he would be having dinner with his mysterious acquaintance, although he did not appear to relish the idea. His fellow cadet later said that Cox seemed to think of seeing George as an unpleasant duty, but one that, for whatever reason, he could not avoid. A little after 6 p.m., Cox left his room to see George. That was the last indisputable sighting of Richard Cox. Although he had signed out, no one reported seeing him leave the barracks. There is no record of him dining at the Thayer that night, or anywhere else for that matter. He simply vanished. When Cox failed to return the next morning, the police and CID were called in. The search for the cadet became the biggest manhunt in West Point's history. And it was all in vain. Although the case has spawned much fanciful theorizing, no one has ever determined what became of this young man whose promising life ended so quickly and bizarrely. George has also remained a phantom. The rigorous investigation never found a clue indicating who he was or where he went. Although it is generally assumed that he was behind Cox's disappearance, it is a complete mystery how or why he would spirit off the cadet. As can be imagined, the usual wild theories floated around. Did the cadet flee in fear for his life as a result of his testimony in a court-martial? Was he somehow involved in the murder he claimed George had committed? Was he kidnapped by the Soviets in retaliation for his counter-espionage activities in Germany? Most speculation about Cox's fate focuses on his earlier military career, where he had been part of an intelligence unit. 1950 was the height of the Cold War, and it has been suggested that Cox was involved in some sort of espionage program that led to him being enlisted as a secret agent by the CIA. While this is probably the most plausible theory, no real evidence for it has been found. In their book about the case, Oblivion, Marshall Jacobs and Harry Mailhafer presented a claim from a retired CIA official that Cox was given a new name by the intelligence community, and spent the Cold War smuggling scientists connected to Russia's nuclear program across the Iron Curtain. Allegedly, Cox died of cancer sometime in the 1990s, his true identity still a secret. These authors believed that Cox was likely gay. A theory, however, based mainly on thin rumor. They argue that this secret, which would have jeopardized his career, inspired the cadet to stage his own disappearance. For what it's worth, Cox's family rejects this entire scenario, insisting that he would have found a way to contact his mother, to whom he had been very close. Mrs. Cox died in 1986, still tormented by the puzzle of her son's disappearance. It is impossible to say if Jacobs and Mailhafer's source, who offered no proof whatsoever for all this, was credible. Their theory also fails to satisfactorily explain why it was necessary for Cox to disappear and take on a new persona to his very grave. Jacobs and Mailhafer also mentioned a curious link to the case. They learned of a suspect in a 1985 murder named Robert W. Frisbee. Many years earlier, Frisbee, under the name of Robert Dion, had been stationed at Fort Knox at the same time as Cox. It was probable that the two had known each other. Frisbee, who had once been involved in making phony IDs, was said to resemble descriptions of George. This was all intriguing, but as no one was ever able to conclusively tie Frisbee to George and Cox's disappearance, it all proved to be just another brick wall. There are at least 2 reports of someone allegedly seeing Cox after he disappeared. In 1954, Ernest Shotwell, who had known Cox in the Army, told the FBI that 2 years earlier, he had run into Cox at a bus station in Washington, D.C. The two men spoke briefly, with Cox mentioning that he was on his way to Germany. Shotwell said his old friend was clearly displeased to see him. Cox was agitated and curt, and after a few minutes, abruptly broke off the conversation and stalked off. Shotwell said he had not spoken of this encounter before because he had not known at the time that Cox was a missing person case. Another reported encounter with the vanished cadet supposedly took place in a Florida bar in 1960. An undercover FBI contact made the acquaintance of R.C. Mansfield, who eventually admitted that his real name was Richard Cox. When this FBI agent later learned of the Cox mystery, he tried to set up another meeting with Mansfield, but he never heard from the man again. While these reports are considered plausible, they still don't answer the question of why Cox vanished. What do you think? Please leave a comment. Someone must know something. Is it you?